Hello everyone, welcome to DMUK Talkies. Today we have as guest Mr. Simon Bradbury, Vice-Chancellor International at DMU Leicester. So it's very nice to have you today, Simon. My name is Abdulkarim. I'm a graphic design student.
Hi Simon, I am Bek Mohammed, friends call me Beka, and I'm graphic design too. So it's an honor to meet you, to have you here, to take your time. And we will talk about your experience in architecture, especially in the sustainability. Also, we will discuss about your the transnational education.
So here goes the first question. As far as we know, you studied architecture and you were the head of architecture at DMU Leicester. But you focus primarily on sustainability. So we want to know your opinion on the correlation between education and sustainability, and how do you think should the campus of the future look like?
Perfect. Well, first of all, it's a great pleasure to meet you both and to be here in DMU Kazakhstan. And it's great to be talking to graphic design students as a creative professional as well. I'm so happy that we have these programs here because they're such an important dimension to the kind of economy that really improves people's health and well-being, and is the future of places like Almaty, where I know that the creative industry is thriving. I think it's a really interesting question. What's the relationship between thinking about sustainability and education and architecture, and how those two things come together. And in my professional career, both in practicing architecture and then subsequently teaching architecture, sustainability has always been central to my own practice and my teaching practice. And I think what's really interesting is that very often we get into discussions about sustainability potentially being a kind of technical solution. So you'll see, particularly in the context of architecture, well, we need to find ways of generating renewable energy on top of buildings. Let's put some photovoltaic panels, or indeed it's about how we insulate the buildings, and there's a sort of technical solution. But what is evident in both the literature and practices is actually that's, particularly in the context of education, looking only at the technical solution is insufficient in terms of understanding what that means. And in fact, what we need to do is understand the kind of values and purpose from a human perspective within buildings and cities, really to understand the full dimensions of sustainability, because sustainability isn't a one-dimensional solution. In the context of buildings, it has everything to do with who is working on your construction sites, are they looked after, where have you bought your materials from, have they come from a long distance, does it have a lot of embodied carbon, is your building energy efficient, is it delightful to be in, does it make you happy, what's the environmental quality. So it's a complex project, and in that respect, you need to have your kind of values and purpose right. And maybe by way of example, I'll talk about a student project that I did when I was in the UK that tried to embody these kind of multidimensional principles in terms of how we thought about teaching students. So I worked in collaboration with a charity called the Digital Trust, who have a long history of sustainable design and ecology and a significant landscape estate. And we took students out onto that estate, and we worked with them and the local craftspeople on the estate to understand, the sort of history of how the wood was grown on the estate, what it meant, how it performed, about the kind of ecology of the site. We then got the students to do a little mini competition to design a sort of mini eco-pod, and we picked the winning eco-pod from that students. We had 120 students working on it. We then the trees were felled, sawn, cut down, and then over a period of 3 months, the students came and everybody had a chance to build this project right the way through to completion, and it was published in national newspapers. And what was interesting about that is that, students also had that material experience as well. So you had the sort of context, the sort of values, and the individual experience embedded into the kind of final output in terms of what the students produce. So a very long answer to your question, but hopefully is of interest.
It's beautiful. Thank you for your answer.
Yeah, thank you.
So the next question is, you have led on significant expansion of transnational education at DMU over the last 3 years, yes, including the establishment of campus in Dubai and Kazakhstan. So why is it important to have such institutions across the world? Do you plan on founding the other university branches in other countries?
So I think if we go back to the foundations of De Montfort University, we're a little bit over 150 years old, and we started as an art college originally, which is interesting. You know, that's why I love to see kind of creative subjects here, because that really was the foundation of the university. And the university grew up in Leicester around the surrounding industries. Subsequently, we had a range of fashion programs linked to the hosiery industry, the footwear industry in Leicester. Then we had health and life sciences programs connected to public health elements within the city. And then more recently, you know, other programs sort of came in there. But that heritage about, first of all, connecting with businesses and industry and kind of supporting students into that activity. But also a kind of really strong sense of public good in terms of what we were trying to achieve at the institution, which is now reflected in our new university strategy that's been introduced by our Vice-Chancellor, Professor Katie Norman, to what we call ourselves the empowering university, about making the world a better, fairer society for our students and our staff. I think is the starting point for this conversation, because actually, you know, education is a good for society, you know, wherever that's provided. And it was evident that, you know, in Leicester we have great students, we do a lot of excellent work, but we also had a lot of partnerships all over the world. Some of those are research partnerships, some of those are teaching partnerships. But we decided as an institution we were really keen to actually develop some more significant activity in different countries, because we felt that what we had to offer in Leicester would be of value in different places in the world, and we could bring those same values and principles there. And by establishing a campus, as we've done in Kazakhstan, that would enable us to do that in a holistic way. So it's not just about the education, it's about everything that comes from the university, from the kind of employability I mentioned, or our approach to sustainability, or the wider student experience. So we felt that was the best vehicle to do so, and hence why we started to look at places where that would make sense for us to start to work. And in parallel to that, there was a new UK higher education strategy that was set out, and there was a UK government ambition as well to develop transnational education activity. And as you know, the UK has a very strong and established track record for high quality education, and what that would mean. So we started on that journey, and we started to look for different locations where we may develop that. And the first two that have come forward were in Dubai, and we were in Dubai as actually we're sponsoring the World Expo out there, the UK Pavilion, as part of other work that we've done with the UK Great Campaign. And then obviously in Kazakhstan, we started our journey here in Almaty. And, you know, those are two different places and two different reasons for being there. Dubai is a kind of hub, already well-established hub within the wider region, and students come in from all over the world to study there. Whereas Kazakhstan is it's a regional hub in Central Asia, and it's a different kind of melting pot of different kind of cultures coming together. But also, I think a city like Almaty is so interesting to be a student that it really made sense for us to come here as well. So that's where we started. But I think as that journey progresses and those activities grow, we also have a very big partner in Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia. And we may well indeed in the future look at other locations where we develop. Our hope is that over time, and as these university campuses grow here in Kazakhstan, that actually as a student of De Montfort University Kazakhstan, you're also a student of De Montfort University Leicester, De Montfort University, Dubai, and actually we create a education institution that enables you to connect, travel, learn potentially in different locations, and we're already looking at those exciting opportunities. In fact, students from DMU Kazakhstan I know went to Dubai last year. There's plans for trips to DMU Leicester in the future, and I think what that will give you as a student is not only, I guess, the values, experience, and learning that we have to offer in DMU Leicester, in DMU Kazakhstan, but you'll be part of that global network of our universities and that alumni group that will add so much more value to the DMU degree that you will earn in a few years' time and go on to become part of our alumni network. And I think that's the exciting thing as we look to the future. You know, we've moved from being a regional university to a kind of international kind of hub of university in different locations. So it's a really exciting journey.
Yeah, we're looking forward to everything that comes next. Thank you for your answer. I'd like to know what part did you play in establishing the Dubai and Kazakhstan campuses? Because I'm personally interested in how did you come up with the idea for our campus in Kazakhstan?
Because it's really cool. We really like it, and we spent a lot of time by just relaxing, chilling.
Yes. So in terms of my role, I'm the Overseas Provost and Pro Vice-Chancellor International, and I was responsible for developing alongside colleagues in the university the strategy in terms of the growth for our transnational education activity. And what we then did is we spent a lot of time looking at where we would like to go in terms of countries and territories, but also listening to partners that we could work with in those different locations. So it was a combination, I guess, of understanding where the right places to go and finding the right partners on the ground and working with the UK Embassy and those elements. In terms of, it's, as you said, the campus is a kind of a cool place to be. It's fun, and we were very much involved in those conversations about how that sort of developed. But I think, aside from the kind of physical infrastructure, I think as universities grow, which will happen over time here, as the student numbers go up, what will be interesting is that how the students become part of that voice of what the future campus starts to look at. And I think that's what we'll inevitably start to discuss very, very quickly. And I think, the other part to that then will be, in terms of the curriculum and other things that we're offering out here, we are very ambitious about what the future of the curriculum will be that we're delivering here and in Leicester. And we've got a program called Education 2030 that we've implemented, which is moving our programs into what's called block structure. So you learn in kind of segments of learning, 7-week blocks, which is very similar if you're, in a design industry, you will be familiar with working on very tight deadlines to produce particular projects. And we're really trying to reflect that in the way in which you learn and the way in which you progress between different modules. It also enables you to kind of move between doing different experiences. Potentially you could go and spend, 1 block in Dubai, 1 block here, 1 block in Leicester. So I think that we're excited about what that has to offer in the future as well.
May I ask one more question about campus? The thing is, I think many students of DMUK are interested in knowing how the campus will expand in the future, and what kind of new additions could we expect in the near future or later? If you have any information on that.
So I think maybe 2 things to say about that, which is that when you start a new campus in a new place, you learn a lot of things very, very quickly. In a positive way. So in a sense, you come in with a sort of sense of what it might be like. And I think a really good example of that is the graphic design course that you're on. So when we started these conversations about starting in Kazakhstan, it was, business, maybe some computing, and then we said, maybe graphic design. And as you know, graphic design has turned out to be the second most popular program this year of all the courses. And of course, DMU Leicester, we have a very strong heritage in creative industries. Our School of Fashion and Textiles is, top 50 in the world. We have alumni, famous dancers, etc. Creative subjects is really important to DMU, and I'm delighted, as I said, to hear that it's coming forward. But what we're learning quite quickly is about, I guess, the ambition for these sorts of courses. So what else do we want to do? Because there clearly is an ambition to bring programs like that in. But also we're finding that students are really keen to come and study here, and perhaps, more than we anticipated would be in the first place. And so as you're learning that information, you're immediately thinking, okay, what does that mean for the future? And what does that mean in terms of what you provide for facilities, in terms of building? So in the very early stages, the first thing almost certainly we'll need to do is find some more space, because we are just about timetabled in, and in the relatively short term, we will find space to kind of accommodate a little bit of expansion. But I think our ambition ultimately in the next 3 to 5 years is to engage in conversations about where we want to be in 10 years' time, or in 15 years' time, or in 20 years' time. And I think in that context, that's going to be about engaging those students and saying, okay, you've come here, you've made a kind of leap of faith to join a British university in DMU Kazakhstan just as it's starting up, started new programs, and hopefully having good experience and learning all the things you want to do. But a student in 5 years' time, what do you think they would want? What would be their ambition? Is it to be in this location and other types of buildings in the middle of the city? Is it to be in a campus outside? Is it to be, what would that look like, and what would that look and feel, and what would you want to see, in terms of other facilities for their thoughts, others. So I think, we are ambitious. I think there are, kind of potential options on the horizon, but I think we'd put students at the centre of that conversation in terms of what would be here. So, your question to me is, what should you expect to see coming forward? And I think what we would say is, what would you like to see coming forward?
Thank you. As we are graphic designers, and we hope we will, for example, provide sustainable development through our works and projects. Yeah. And if you were to give some advice to us and another graphic designers, what would it be?
In terms of your future? All of those things. So, I think when you come into university and you've kind of picked a course like graphic design or any of those kind of creative subjects, very often you have a sense of potentially what kind of thing you'd like to do. Maybe you're thinking already, okay, what I really want to do is start my own little business, and I'm going to be a sole trader, or I'm going to get kind of commissions and coming in. Or maybe actually you've got your views on a slightly bigger firm that you want to go to, and you think that's your direction of travel. So I guess my advice, and perhaps building a little bit on my career, is that there's never a wrong decision. I think you need to make that, as you go, have that ambition, and give it a go. And if it doesn't work out, that's completely fine, but you've probably learned something through that process. So I can tell you, in my career, I was a practicing architect in a very big company, in a relatively small company. I've had my own company. I've then been in education, and I'm running education. I've had probably 4 different careers, up until now. And all of those have been fulfilling in different ways. And all of those have used my creative skills in different ways every single day, even if I'm not necessarily designing buildings. And I think you'll probably find as a creative professional that the skills that you're going to have aren't just the ability to kind of create visually really interesting things, whatever the field you're doing in, but those critical thinking skills that you're going to develop as problem solvers are going to hold you in good stead for whatever that journey would be. And you should just have the confidence to take the leap forward and have a go. And I'm sure you'll go on to do great things.
And love what you're doing.
Yes, and love what you're doing. Yeah.
All right. Thank you for the answer. Thank you for your time, for coming today and talking to us. It's been great.
Thank you, Mr. Simon. It was a great honor to meet you. And thank our viewers, the DMUK Talks. We will see you next time, and watch our videos.